the ordinance, or it needs to be added that you have to go a certain amount of linear feet to tie in. If you have to bring it over, then if everything's in front of your property, if you have water, sewer, electric, then it meets that short form. That means you're just tying into the street. You're not taking it 3 lots down or anything like that. So you would, if you have all that, then that's a short form and you would go the quicker process.
Let me just one other thing on that, and that would make a difference. When you said bring in utilities, a lot of times when you have a subdivision or a lot, and you have to bring in new utilities, you have to provide easements, either in the front or back, so you're changing, that property. You're dedicating, so that will trigger, plat as well.
Okay, I'm gonna allow Randy to finish, then you can have the floor. Go ahead, Randy.
And the second part on that is going back now is to me being a business owner. I think Ramiro stated as far as his statewide laws, they are cookie cutter laws. So like you could say, you can amend or add on to these. Take into consideration also where we're at, who y'all are, what needs to be done for the city and the residents, and what they can provide and go on. We all want the perfect, world as far as neighborhoods, but let's also be realistic and also realize what the citizens also need, or not what they want. So take that into consideration as not just to adopt a blank canvas, put in your, think about it, put in your revisions as far as what needs to be done. I've built multiple, and I understand easements and utilities. I've done so many communities, nothing in Frio County, and that's a totally different story. But I've done in Atascosa, Wilson, Valverde, and so forth. And there are different things you can do to help out your community as far as that. As far as just giving them, like I said, cookie cutter stuff to where it puts hardship on certain citizens. Not all citizens, but it will put some hardship. We gotta take consideration where Pearsall is. I know we want to be here. We don't wanna be here, but let's be at least to where we can provide for everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hector, please step forward and state your name and address. Come on up.
Name and address.
Yeah, please.
Hector Lozano. I want this gentleman to clarify, who is the subdivider? Who is the subdivider?
The owner could be the subdivider,
Mr. Reyes bought that property. He
Correct.
wasn't the subdivider. The subdivider was Stacy. And there was a Colonia, the AG got involved, and there was illegal Colonia subdivision. So this stuff about the subdivision regulations to the subdivider, he's not the subdivider. He bought that property as it was.
but it's not platted right now, and if it's gonna
It
be
is
platted.
platted. It was platted in the Colonia.
Okay,
So
so
they
if,
got
so
sued.
if it has an existing plat and it's already been subdivided, then you may not need to do any of this. You know what I'm saying?
I
So,
think that's the issue.
okay, so then he would need to bring that information in. If it's platted already,
And
then
I-
there's no need to replat.
And I don't think Ms. Moran was aware of that Stacy subdivision lawsuit with the Attorney General involved on that stuff. Just to clarify another thing that Ms. Moran said, these are changes, and when you say your changes, we made some changes. They haven't been approved by the city council, have they? These are changes that you guys are
These are
thinking about? Proposed changes, but they don't take effect until the ordinance, the council amends the ordinance, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's
otherwise you have what you have in the books, Ramiro, Mr. Trevino, you have what you have in 76. There is state law that supersedes what's in there, okay? I have, what I come across, some of the complaints that come across is that the city seems to be helping out big-time developers and giving small individuals a hard time. That's the major complaint I hear, okay? Your subdivision ordinance states you have a preliminary plat, you have a final plat. Procedurally, the city's not complying with any of that stuff. P&Z should look at the preliminary, make recommendations to the council. There's some plats, because I look at plats, there's some plats that are filed that never came to the city council. there was one in particular that I'm still haven't let go, the VNZ over there. I did open records request, they asked for elevation certificate, there was no elevation certificate done. And when I inquired about that back in 22, Mr. Reyes said, yeah, there is a plat. It wasn't recorded until October of 23, a year later on that. So obviously the city's not complying with what's in the ordinance. There's a recent one, Lindsay Lane Retail. And I did a recent open records request for copy of the agenda item for Crystal. I still don't have a response from Crystal
I
on
emailed
that.
you.
But that was recorded, envelope 177B, and it was filed September 26th of 24. Okay, I have some questions on that plat, because it was filed and P&Z met. I had the certification, because there's some certifications. They were certified, 9/16, September 16th, where Jesus Cuevas, the chairman, and Ms. Moran signed. Let me put my glasses on, because I can't see. Let's see. The undersigned chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Pearsall hereby certified this subdivision plat conforms to all the requirements of the subdivision regulations of the city, wherein my approval is required. September 16th, 24, Jesus Cuevas, Yolanda Moran. Okay, then there's a registered professional engineer, Edward Garza. I don't know who he is, but he also certified that everything, all the consideration has been given to the plat. On that request, let's see, was that the one? There was one, who is this gentleman?
Leonard Young.
Leonard Young. I looked at the plat and I looked at it one day, and there was a certification on the code, on the muni code in section 38. It talks about the certifications, who does what, who signs what. And the city engineer is one of those that signs. I looked at the plat, and then when I went back a week later, there was an add-on to it, a stickum to that plat. And they made a copy of it. I'll show it to Mr. Young. See right there?
Oh, that's my seal.
Yeah, that's your seal, but it's attached to it after the fact.
No, sir.
No.
No.
Yes, it was.
Okay,
Nice,
Mr.
nice.
McDonald, let me
Yeah,
ask you,
well-
what is, we're talking about the revised subdivision.
Well, the city's not complying with what's there.
According
you
to
gotta
what,
be-
according to what you're fine, but that's not the topic of this conversation.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
38 certifications.
Okay, we're looking at adopting a new ordinance, we're looking at adopting a new ordinance
Well,
that's going
Ms.
to.
Moran just went over all the requirements of the ordinance right now.
Okay.
If you look at 38, the requirement on 38, 38, 39, final plat. And it talks about the certifications. The owner's acknowledgement, the chairman of P&Z, which is there, the certification of the surveyor, certification of the engineer, which I just asked. And that, the other ones are 9/16, and Young, I believe, Mr. Young, 9/20/24. And it was his certification, but it was attached to it after the fact, on the plat.
Okay, so let me ask you, what is your point? What is your point?
How could it be stating, certifying that it complies with all the requirements?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak to this, just really quick. This, to me, and I'll share this as best I can, as calmly as I can. This has been, as I mentioned, an arduous process. And what I mean by that is this, and I believe Mr., to his point, he was the city attorney at one time, and I'm gonna come to my point here. He's been the city attorney prior years. There's been subdivisions under your watch, sir, that have been developed
Right.
that have nowhere near compliance, nowhere near. You have subdivisions that, the Stacy subdivision being one of them, that was, and I know about that lawsuit.
Right.
I'm aware of it. I'm also aware there's a subdivision I believe you were the owner of that you subdivided, let me just finish. There's no road, there's no street, those properties were subdivided, and what we're talking about is when we're talking about standards, those are the things that to me are, we can talk about, quite frankly, these, what I call, these items that, we're not, seals and, it was done after the fact, but these, in my opinion, sir, this is just me, these are blatant things that have happened over the course of several years, that to me, my question is, how did anybody ever let this happen? Now I'm saying that, to respect to you, sir, and others, is that what I have to say is, okay, look, let's, as best we can, let's try to fix this and address this. To my other point, is I've also said, there have errors that have been made. I would be the first to tell you that I have not been errorless. I would be the first to tell you that I've made some errors. Now, have they been blatant, and have they been to where there's no care to what should happen, or what the ordinances read, or how they should be interpreted? I would call it, and I would tell you that is incorrect. And what I'm saying is that things that have been happening historically have been gross and negligent on my part. What I'm suggesting to the council is there has to be a point where we have set a standard and say, look, as best we can, we're gonna try to get people to comply with this. Now, to this gentleman's point, Mr. Reyes' point on the other hand is, that standard to me is like, okay, and these are small discussions that we're having, is like, do we wanna have people to have sidewalks? To me, maybe that'll be a good thing for your business, maybe not, you're in the concrete business, but those are discussions that to me are smaller in nature. What we have here, what we've had for in my opinion, for several years, is we've had infrastructure that's been put in my opinion, to some extent has been illegally put in, or there's been very little knowledge of, and now it's causing hardships that now people are like, well, why? I give you a perfect example of Nolan Road. That's one that we get calls all the time. There's infrastructure out there. There is a lack of infrastructure out there. I don't know what to tell these people. I'm like, you have what you have. You bought the property. You bought Stacy's another one. You bought the property. Is another one. I can go on, and we spend a lot of our time attempting to address these issues. And quite frankly, I could tell people, to his point, Stacy. I'll give you the example of Stacy. There's a water line there's a water line not dedicated. There's no easement. There is no plat that addresses that water line that runs directly through that property. There is none. We talked to Mr. Stacy. That's an illegal subdivision. You know it. And my point to that is, there was a meter that was placed there where the 6-inch line is at, and there's a water line that ran. And I'm like, well, how do we get these people to tell them, hey, we need an easement to be able to run the water that we need to run, to be able to keep these people and give them the services that they to some extent paid for, or they thought was there. But I can go on with these subdivisions, and unfortunately, it is a lot to absorb. And again, to me, part of this is a bit, it's concerning. And the other part is I believe that we've done, from what I've seen, we've done a pretty reasonable job compared to what we've had to deal with. And again, we could probably sit here and argue back and forth, but I think that's something that I can comfortably tell the council.
Okay, but I can go on just a minute to follow on with that. I'm aware of these subdivisions that have been involved in that as well, but the point here to the mayor, to the city manager's comment, is that we've done things or we've allowed things to happen that have further hurt the citizens, and everything else. What this is doing is fixing that. And with the addition of the assistant city manager, Crystal and Fred were overloaded with it. I thought she would be doing much more stuff, but her time is largely on permitting and building. And so this is going to strengthen those things and prohibit those things that have come in the past that create a problem. Are there problems? You bet. This session is not to identify what those are. We know that they're there, but they're to prevent them from happening in the future, and to standardize the process. To Randy's point, as a banker, I've been involved in multiple of these on the financial side, and those people that bring in subdivisions are used to that. That's part of the process. But so that 20 years from now, the council won't have the problem of, Well, we don't have water, we have a 2-inch line, it should have been a 6-inch. Sets those standards. So anyway, your point's well taken. If you have something relative to what we're fixing to do and not what's been done, you're welcome to mention that. But if it's what's been done, it's not relevant.
Well, just a couple of clarifications.
Is it in regard to what's fixing to happen or what's been done?
What you did, Ben.
Well,
What you
why is
did.
that relative?
Because it's a certification, and then one of my questions on the open record request was a copy of the agenda for September 16th, because on that same fact that we're talking about, Lindsay, subdivision has been considered and approved by the city council of Pearsall, Texas, dated September 16th, Ben T. Briscoe, mayor.
Okay.
You guys didn't have a meeting on September 16th. I asked Bristol for that. So you signed it
Okay.
without
Is
authority.
it my signature? Am I not the mayor on September 16th?
I'll show you.
Am I not the mayor on September 16th?
Right, but you, without authority.
Okay.
So, what,
Okay.
I can
So-
answer that.
Okay,
Right.
all right, well, you know.
What he's alluding to is, that's the date that the plat was signed. It was brought before council prior to that date, so once you all approve it, then we get the signatures. Lindsay Lane, there are sometimes when the engineer for the property owner did not put in all the required signatures, so they'll put in a little tab or blank to put in the required signature. But Mr. Lozano, that's the date that the plats are signed, that when the mayor comes into the office and signs it, or when, YPR signs it, it's not the date
So-
of the
Well,
city council meeting.
that's not what it is. Anyway, let me clarify.
No, I'm gonna tell you.
No, let me clarify. No, sir.
No.
I need to clarify what he said.
Do you have something relative to the revision that's coming? No.
I agree with
No.
the provision, and I talked to Ms. Moran, and I said I offered my services to her.
Okay, thank
And I
you. We're
agree
done.
with
If
that.
it doesn't have anything to do with
But
what's happening.
let me clarify what Mr. Reyes said, because he attacked me. He said I was the owner. He's wrong. He's flat out wrong. I was not the owner of that property. It belonged to my.
It is now 7:18, we are in closed sessions, you're done.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, council, this pretty much concludes, the meeting. We have general announcements. Is there anything that council would like to say? Okay, all right, then I'll take a motion to adjourn. Okay, there's a motion by Councilwoman A. Garza, a second by Councilwoman Trevino. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.